Welcome to Stories from the Holy Book, where timeless truths and sacred stories come to life. The story of the 10 plagues and the Exodus from Egypt stands as one of the most dramatic and defining moments in ancient Israel's history. This saga, found in the book of Exodus, chapters 7 through 12, recounts how God intervened decisively to rescue the Israelites from a life of bitter bondage under Pharaoh's rule. It's a tale of faith and defiance, warning and wonder, with each step designed to reveal the limits of human power and the incomparable might of the divine. After generations in Egypt, the Israelites, once welcomed as the family of Joseph, had multiplied and grown strong. But with the passing of time and the rise of new kings, they fell from favor. They became slaves, cruelly oppressed by their masters. Their cries ascended to God, and in response, God called upon Moses, a Hebrew raised by Pharaoh's own daughter, to stand against the mightiest power on earth. Moses, joined by his brother Aaron, approached Pharaoh with a simple request. "Let my people go, so that they may worship me in the wilderness." Time and again, Pharaoh refused. In response, God unleashed a series of plagues, each more intense than the last, to demonstrate his authority not only over Pharaoh but also over Egypt's many deities, revealing the futility of resisting his will. The first plague struck the very lifeblood of Egypt, its mighty Nile. At God's command, Moses lifted his staff and struck the waters of the river, turning them to blood. Fish died, the river stank, and the people could not drink its water. Yet despite this blow to Egypt's commerce and comfort, Pharaoh's magicians imitated the feat with their secret arts. Pharaoh's heart remained unmoved, and he would not let the Israelites go. Next came the plague of frogs. Frogs swarmed from the rivers, filling the houses, croaking in bedrooms, invading ovens, and kneading bowls. Life in Egypt became intolerable, and Pharaoh begged Moses to intercede. When the frogs died, relief was short-lived. Pharaoh hardened his heart and broke his word. The third plague brought gnats, swarming from the dust, covering humans and animals alike. This time the magicians could not replicate the plague. "This is the finger of God," they said. But Pharaoh was resolute, refusing to yield. The fourth plague introduced a new terror. Swarms of flies surged through Egypt, everywhere except the land of Goshen, where the Israelites lived, who were spared. Egypt's suffering grew, but the king's pride remained. The fifth plague afflicted Egypt's livestock. Horses, donkeys, camels, cattle, sheep, and goats fell dead, decimating the nation's wealth and productivity. Yet again the Israelites' animals were untouched, a sign of distinction between God's people and the Egyptians. Still, Pharaoh would not bend, and so the sixth plague arrived in the form of festering boils. Egyptian men and animals alike suffered, and even the magicians could not stand before Moses because of their pain. Yet Pharaoh's heart stayed hard. The seventh plague took the form of a devastating hailstorm. Fire and ice mingled in the skies, shattering the land with untold fury, destroying crops, shattering trees, and killing anyone or anything left in the open. Pharaoh, now fearful, begged Moses to pray to God for relief, admitting, "I have sinned." But upon the plague's end, he reneged, stubborn as ever. Eighth came the locusts, an endless swarm that devoured what little was left after the hail. Every green thing vanished. Not a leaf or blade remained. Egypt, famed for its bounty, was reduced to desolation. Pharaoh again begged for relief and relented, only to harden his heart once the threat had passed. The ninth plague brought a darkness so deep and impenetrable that for 3 days no one could see or move. Yet the Israelites had light where they dwelled. For the Egyptians, the darkness was more than physical. It was a sign that their world, their order, was unraveling. But Pharaoh, still unwilling to lose his slave force, refused the final release. The 10th and final plague was the most dreadful of all, the death of the firstborn. Every Egyptian home, from the lowest servant to Pharaoh himself, was touched by tragedy. At midnight, the angel of death passed through Egypt, but God had commanded the Israelites to mark their doorposts with the blood of a lamb. This sign caused the angel to pass over their homes, sparing their children. This night, called Passover, became a central observance in the Jewish faith, a lasting memory of God's protection and deliverance. As cries of grief rose from every Egyptian home, Pharaoh's resistance finally broke. He summoned Moses and Aaron in the darkness and said, "Go, worship the Lord as you have requested. Take your flocks and herds. The time has come to leave." The Israelites, prepared and obedient, set out in haste. As they departed, the Egyptians, desperate to be rid of them, gave them gifts of silver, gold, and clothing, fulfilling the prophecy that they would leave not as destitute exiles, but as a people blessed and vindicated by God. The 10 plagues were more than acts of punishment. Each was targeted to reveal the impotence of Egypt's gods and to show that the God of Israel alone has the power to control nature, life, and death itself. The plagues stood as divine judgments, but they were also invitations to Pharaoh, to Egypt, to all who would witness, to recognize and heed the sovereignty of God. This struggle between Moses and Pharaoh was not merely a clash of personalities or nations. It was a contest between tyranny and liberation, between hardened pride and persistent faith. Through the plagues, God demonstrated his deep concern for the oppressed, his willingness to act on behalf of the powerless, and his determination to keep his promises. The exodus that followed became the foundation of Israel's national identity, a people whom God had chosen, saved, and set apart. The memory of the plagues, the Passover, and the journey out of Egypt would be retold in every generation, shaping their understanding of who they were and whose they were. For all who hear the story, it stands as a powerful affirmation that no force, political, natural, or spiritual, can ultimately stand against the purposes of God and the liberation of those he calls his own. Thank you for watching Stories from the Holy Book. May these stories strengthen your faith and guide your heart. Don't forget to subscribe and join us next time for more sacred tales and divine inspiration. God bless you.